Newsflash, your boy's a lightning rod. Just out here stirring up controversy left and right. I think I rattled the cages of a few PLG stalwarts with a piece I put out. Guys, don't take it that seriously. I wrote it from my couch on my phone with my dog Walter. Seriously though, but I wrote a piece and it was called "Why Romanticizing PLG is Dangerous," and it's something that I truly believe because I've worked at a couple of product-led growth companies where we relied upon the product to get us in the door, and we told this narrative to investors and to those around us. And I think we started to believe it that the product just sold itself. You didn't need any sales reps. But that was fundamentally not true. And I think with AI companies who are breaking revenue records left and right, this PLG narrative, it's shifted to this extreme. And I do think it's dangerous to perpetuate because you're hearing now like, oh, XYZ AI company, they launched from a garage with 3 engineers and a golden retriever named Kevin, and they hit $50 million in ARR in 6 months, and they had 0 sales reps, all on plastic, all on credit cards. Wow, we could do that too. Now, 5 years ago, PLG was celebrated for its potential to fuel organic, hyperbolic growth and put the product in the user's hands and allowing adoption to scale without limits. And companies like HubSpot, Zoom, Airtable, Atlassian, they all became household names from the 2010s to 2020s for employing this go-to-market motion, right? It was all the rage. And now today, the pundits on LinkedIn, they're coming out of the woodworks to embrace it as a lever again. But they're using it with a different rationale that I don't think was there before. It's to grow efficiently without needing to expand sales teams in lockstep with revenue. So it's like an excuse to not really hire, to save on costs and to increase your ARR per head, which I love, but to do it potentially at the expense of the overall company's health. And so what was once about capturing this unbounded growth potential, I think it's morphing into this theoretical strategy for balancing growth and cost containment, which is like an antidote of sorts to this expensive headcount-driven sales motion that we've seen at a lot of other tech companies. And as my dad, maybe he's listening right now, he always listens on the way to Cape Cod when he's driving down. He's like, CJ, that strategy in a buck will get you a nice coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. It's $5 now, Dad, for a nice coffee. Inflation's crazy, but he's right. Like, that strategy will not buy you anything if you only rely on it. And I think both narratives here hinge on one myth, that the product sells itself. You're swapping this boundless expansion for cost cutting, and it oversimplifies reality. And that romanticized view, it's risky for complex businesses, which many of us are really trying to create. And here are the 5 reasons I'm going to take you through why leaning too hard on PLG can actually stunt your long-term growth potential. So the first is you're artificially capping your share of wallet. The second, you're losing money on credit card processing fees. 3, you miss out on valuable feedback by not talking to customers. 4, PLG can only scale so far without a sales team. And 5, even the PLG darlings don't fully rely on PLG. So I'm going to take you through them one by one. So number 1, you're artificially capping your share of wallet. So in the world of enterprise SaaS, PLG limits how much of your customer's budget you can access. The larger orgs, particularly those in highly regulated industries like finance, healthcare, government, they're not going to make a mission critical purchase via a self-serve platform. The CIO at a company like JP Morgan Chase isn't going to toss 3,000 licenses of your cloud security tool or even your harmless, Asana or Notion or any sort of productivity note-taking app on their corporate Amex. It just doesn't happen. These types of purchases involve multi-million-dollar contracts that are often negotiated by procurement teams with extensive due diligence and legal reviews. So let's talk about Salesforce. They're a company that's famously embraced a heavy sales force, no pun intended, and their enterprise deals can range in hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars annually, and they have complex pricing structures and customized contract terms. Imagine trying to DocuSign your way through such a deal on a web portal. It just doesn't happen. And the reality is that PLG will only take you so far. And for enterprise customers, high-touch sales processes are still the norm. And I have a bit of a downy here, so I've seen it firsthand. The slides that say, quote, "We close multi-billion-dollar market cap logo using self-serve as the edge of the wedge." And if I'm being really, really honest with you, it pains me to say, but I actually built those slides a few times. And it sucks to say, but Santa PLG just isn't real. Many of these narratives are form-fitted retroactively So if you have hundreds of thousands of users, it's like, no shit, there was someone with a salesforce.com or an amazon.com email address using the free product before the larger contract was signed. It's a law of large numbers. It's a falsehood to tell people that those initial users just walked into your CIO's office to close a deal for all the employees. Number 2, you're losing money on credit card processing fees. So PLG encourages self-serve purchasing through credit cards, right? Well, it might be convenient. It's also super expensive at scale. So credit card processing fees typically range from 2.5% to 3% of the total transaction amount. And if your customers are paying for annual SaaS contracts worth tens of thousands of dollars, these fees quickly add up. So I was having a dinner with the head of finance at a new vertical SaaS startup, and they serve 100% of their customers through credit cards. And he looked me in the eye and said, Stripe has us by the balls. It was ruining his cost of goods sold, making it more difficult to hire more support people. And a $10 million SaaS business who's taking 90% of payments by cards pays $270,000 in 3% fees. That's enough to cover 4 support reps or pad their margins. And if you switch to ACH, which is usually free or less than 1%, that'll save over $250,000 in this example. So on top of that, roughly 10% of cards fail each year. People forget about that. Not all the cards go through. It even happens with my Substack on Stripe. Like at least 10% of my unsubscribes are people whose credit cards just expire. And that spawns write-offs, pricey dunning tools, and extra headcount just to chase down payments. It creates this circular loop, if you will. And so Zoom is a great example. It started with self-serve credit card-based purchases for its SMB customers, and it scaled and signed larger deals and moved many enterprise customers to ACH and other payment methods to avoid high fees and make sure that they could collect. Because increasing collections, like you got to be certain about that. That becomes a big deal at scale. If you're successful, listen, what I mean by that is lucky. If you're lucky enough, it will for you too. Number three, you miss out on valuable feedback by not talking to customers. This is coming from someone who hates getting out from behind this mic and talking to real humans. So when customers sign up through a web page without talking to a salesperson, you lose valuable opportunities for feedback that can shape both your sales process and product development. And this was a lesson learned by companies like HubSpot, which initially relied heavily on PLG, but later expanded its sales team to gather insights from larger customers. Leah Therian, my friend, wrote another piece to respond to this piece, and she made a great point that HubSpot actually grew with its customers over time. So they did get in by serving smaller customers through the PLG motion, and then they benefited like a rising tide lifts all ships as those customers grew. What she also pointed out here was it's like owning a gym, and you can watch people using your product, going in and out of the gym, using the restrooms, using the weights. But if you don't talk to them, you don't figure out what their goals are. Why are they there? Are they there to look better? Are they there for their mental health? Are they there just to get away from their kids? Why are they there? You have to talk to people who are using your product. And I thought that was an excellent analog that she gave there. I had used the example of Airtable. She actually hated that one, which is hilarious. But the company began purely as PLG, which allowed users to self-serve and set up their workspaces and pay by credit card. But when they started landing larger accounts, they realized they were missing out on understanding customer pain points, especially from larger teams managing complex workflows. And so Airtable pivoted. They introduced the customer success managers, CSMs, and account executives, AEs, for their higher value customers to serve them in a more white glove bespoke way. And it gave them valuable product feedback that helped them build a more reliable platform that worked for the enterprise, like single sign-on capabilities, which is like table stakes now, but like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, like that was an add-on, and advanced security permissions, which were crucial for landing bigger deals. Leia made a point that Airtable actually like completely deleted their PLG motion and just went straight to field sales. Maybe that's true, but nonetheless, talking to customers and finding a middle ground between PLG and using your reps, I think is imperative to figure out what they actually want. Number 4, PLG can only scale so far without a sales team. So the harsh truth is that PLG hits a ceiling at a certain point. If you want to move up market and land bigger deals, you'll need an account-based sales team to handle the complexity and the relationship building required for enterprise customers. Leia made a point that she thinks that you'll top out around 10 to 15 million in ARR. And I thought that was like an astute observation that like that probably is the ceiling of like pure credit card PLG motions. And I'm not talking about e-commerce here. I'm talking about SaaS, because someone's going to get angry and be like, there are marketplaces out there doing billions of dollars on credit cards and they have no sales reps. I'm like, I'm not talking about that. Okay. And like I said before, coming from someone who's an introvert, I begrudgingly admit that you can't have a relationship with a logo. I'll say it again. You cannot have a relationship with a logo. And it can be really hard to navigate a corporate org chart. I imagine like the Charlie from It's Always Sunny pointing to like his crime scene investigation whiteboard with all the papers and the yarn. Like that's what a Johnson and Johnson org chart looks like. I remember one time at my last company, we were trying to sell to Bridgestone, and we found out Bridgestone was like owned by like a Japanese conglomerate. And I remember the Miro page our head of business development made. It looked like Charlie from It's Always Sunny. It looked like a crime scene investigation of like who's who. So Slack, the company built its initial success on viral PLG based stuff, but individuals and small teams could sign up, start using the product for free. I use it for my own company, and eventually upgrade to paid tiers. I've never talked to anybody at Slack, but as Slack sought to expand into enterprise customers like IBM, by the way, IBM has 300,000 people. That's like, I think Boston proper is only like 400,000 people. If you add the rest of Boston outside of it, you get to like 800,000. But like living in the city, that's like IBM. It needed to deploy an enterprise sales force to navigate long procurement cycles, security concerns, and custom integration. So those big deals are done between people. You don't sell to a company the size of the, the citizenship of Boston, just over the internet without talking to somebody. Number 5, even PLG darlings don't fully rely on PLG. And this is perhaps the point I want to harp on the most. So if PLG is so perfect, why don't even the biggest PLG companies fully rely on it? It's because they understand the limits of product-led growth for scaling into large enterprises. So Atlassian is one of the biggest advocates of PLG, yet they still have a considerable sales team for handling larger accounts. So despite their claim to fame, they say this, that they have no sales team. The company has a growing enterprise Salesforce to cater to larger customers who need more support and customization. In their case, roughly 25% of their employees are involved in sales or customer success. I looked on LinkedIn. You can call them whatever you want. Purple tiger, yellow elephant, customer support. They're really salespeople, okay? At the end of the day, they are functionally doing sales. Datadog, another high-profile PLG company, they follow a similar model. While its product adoption is driven largely by engineers who are signing up through a self-serve platform, Datadog also employs a ton of really well-paid. I have friends who work at Datadog and they sell stuff. They make a lot of money. Their salespeople make a lot of money, and they land big enterprise clients like Expedia, Peloton, and Samsung. You do not get customers on plus 8 products. I love that slide from their Investor Day presentation without assigning them to a sales rep to strategically expand them. And so here's just a quick list, a rundown of companies that claim to be PLG and a rough percentage of their employees dedicated to sales and customer success roles. This is just like a quick LinkedIn estimation that I did using Navigator. Notion, 10% of their people on sales teams. Dropbox, 15%. Twilio, 18%. Datadog, 20%. Zoom, 22%. Atlassian, 25%. Monday.com, 28%. HubSpot, 30% of their org doing sales. Asana, 30%. And then Slack pre-acquisition, 35%. And so these numbers clearly show that even companies celebrated for their PLG models understand the importance of having a sales team to land bigger, more complex deals. And these numbers have not, as the talking heads on LinkedIn would like you to believe, shifted much as a percentage of the total company headcount over the last few years. So yes, over the last couple of years, we did have a lot of bad reps that were weeded out. Sales is very much a what have you done for me lately business. But over the last 2 years, we also saw bad accountants and HR partners moved out of the companies who wanted to refocus resources. So salespeople losing jobs over the last couple of years, like it was everywhere. It wasn't just salespeople, and it wasn't because of PLG. So beware. PLG will get you out of the gates. It will help you validate product market fit. It will slash customer acquisition costs, and it will light a fire under early adopters. But if you're shooting for enterprise scale, you can't kid yourself that logos will just sign themselves. You need a sales motion to navigate org charts, security reviews, and come up with bespoke contracts. So blend your self-serve engine with a people-led approach, and you'll unlock the deals that really move the needle. I wanted to stress it's not an either or, it's a better together. And if I was a betting man, I would wager that those 3 founders and Kevin the Golden Retriever have already downloaded Greenhouse and are looking for their first CRO. All right, folks, thanks for rocking with me. If you enjoyed this, check out mostlymetrics.com where I wrote about this. Also, check out Leia's product tee. I really love her stuff. It's leiatharin.com, LEAHTHARIN.com. And she wrote The Nasty Side Effects of Bad PLG. Give this 5 stars if you enjoyed it. Share it with a friend. Peace.